Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The View from 4 Feet and 3 Inches. I don't remember the episode title or the episode number, but that's okay. I'm your host, Cassidy Huff. And today always, I'm a white woman, and I have shoulder length blonde hair. I'm wearing black glasses. I have a white background behind me, not my normal couch background. I'm wearing a gray sweater, and I have a microphone in front of me. And without further ado, I do have a wonderful guest with me today. My friend Alycia Anderson is on the show today. Alycia, I don't know if you know this, but you are the first guest I've had that is not in my family. So congratulations. Yeah?
Wow, that's going to be trivia somewhere on some game at some point.
At some point, who was Cassidy's first guest on our podcast? Right? So after some technical difficulties this morning on both ends, we are here. We are so excited to be here, and I am so excited to have a little conversation with my friend Alycia. So Alycia, do you want to tell the audience who you are, give a little visual description, whatever you feel comfortable with? Go for it.
Yeah, my name's Alycia Anderson. My visual description is I am a white woman wearing a black shirt, my long blonde hair. I do have a couch behind me today. Sticking with the theme, Cassidy, of your normal.
You
Uh,
knew.
I did. I've got a floral rug behind me and some furniture, basically my living room. Um, I'm super excited to be here. Who am I? I am a
Such an
motivational speaker.
such an existential question, I know.
Oh my God.
Sorry, popping right out of the gate.
I know, right out of the gate. I'll give you my answer. My day job is I'm a motivational speaker. I'm a disability inclusion advocate for corporations, education. I travel all over the globe at this point, advocating for disability inclusion in the workplace. I've got a podcast pushing forward with Alycia. Cassidy was just on my show, which has been a fan favorite. Thank you so much. I
That's so
appreciate
nice.
it. Yeah, and I'm really excited to be here and to have created this new friendship with you, Cassidy. So thanks for
Yes,
having
me too. Yeah, so we on this show, I say we, I mainly talk about, disability, what it's like to live every day with a disability. That's kind of my whole platform, um, mainly showing people what everyday life looks like and the good, the bad, the not so great, everything in between. And so I really started it because I was an 18-year-old and I didn't know if I was able to move out on my own as a young woman with a disability fresh out of high school. We were also in the middle of a pandemic and a lot of things were happening. So that's why I started my platform. And so I'm interested in why you started your platform. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't super intentional in the beginning, to be honest with you. I have been involved in advocating for myself and others with disabilities basically my whole life. I have a congenital disability like you. And I'm a lot older than you were. So when I was born and when I was in school, ADA was not around, and it was a requirement to have allies, advocates, parents, and also find ways to use my own voice to have a seat at the table of just the things that I wanted to do, not the things society told me that I should do or that it is, what I'm able to do.
Mm.
And so through like my education, through college, I was really focused on inclusive studies. I have a master's degree in adaptive physical activity from a master's program in Europe. I have played wheelchair tennis since I was 4. I was actually the first kid that ever played wheelchair tennis with the founder way back in early 80s. I am
That's
old.
amazing.
So that's another fun fact for a game
Yeah.
at some point. Um, and so this path of like advocacy and finding my space in my platform has been kind of a lifelong journey.
Mm.
And then I worked for the Paralympics after my master's degree ended and thought that was going to be my path, like work in disability sports science, like for
Wow.
elite athletes. That was like my goal at that point. And I lived in Europe for a while, working for the Paralympics, did that, and came back and thought I'm going to get the best job ever at home. And I could not find the right fit. All my contacts were like overseas.
Mm.
And so I started working in corporate America as just kind of like, I'll do that until I find the right job. And I embedded myself in the workplace, and I was always the only one. Obviously, I wasn't the only one, but I was the only one with a physical disability that was kind of navigating discrimination, inaccessibility, lack of like consideration in team building events and insurance
Mm.
policies and just all that stuff. And so that piece opened the door for me to start to, hey, it's disability week, will you speak and tell us about your experiences? And so I organically started to share my story. Back then I didn't realize it, but I was probably being tokenized, but I was ignorant back then and didn't recognize it. And I did see like the benefits
Mm.
and what it was doing for other people to talk about tiny little, I mean, the stuff that I talk about now is nothing. Like, I'm brave now. Just dipping my toe in advocacy a little bit. And over time, my platform grew, my confidence grew, my advocacy voice grew. And the more that I would share, the more that I would see like opportunities start to come up or other people raising their hand. And I just felt like, wow, I think I'm really helping other people out. And then speaking was like a fun thing for me. I enjoyed it. I felt like I was pretty good at it. And I applied for a TEDx talk. I did the TEDx talk, and that blew up my platform. And
Yeah.
2020, I had to make the decision, like, what am I going to do? Do I keep working at a corporate job? When I left corporate America, I was a vice president of sales at a technology company, woman in leadership with a disability leading, which again, you don't see very often in the
No.
workplace. And, but I felt in my heart that I needed to just like take the leap. George Floyd had just happened, all the racial uprising, 2020, and disability inclusion and DEI, the birth of DEI in the masses,
Yeah.
not include disability at all. And it
Mm.
motivated me to go for it. And I quit my job and
Wow.
I wanted to lead and not, I was already doing the work. And I'm like, I don't want to follow. I want to lead. I want to lead. I want to lead. So I quit and I started my business, and
Wow.
that's what happened.
Okay, so tell us about your business, because I know a little bit, but I want to hear in your own words.
Yeah. So, I have a disability inclusive, advocacy in the workplace business. So a lot of what I do is either motivational speaking. I've got training modules for leadership training or onboarding new employees, teaching them about disability inclusion, accessibility,
Mm-hmm.
ableism, all of that. And so I spend I probably 90% of my time I'm traveling all over doing keynotes or trainings to big corporations from NBC to Abercrombie and Fitch and Victoria's Secret. Like the
Just
logos are
to name a few.
the logos are incredible. And to also like school districts and, medical industry, and the message really translates everywhere.
Yeah.
The bulk of my business is educating a lot of able-bodied people, honestly, on what our biases are towards disability,
Mm.
the lack of opportunity, um, and trying to open up doors for those that are going to follow me, so it's not so tough or not so uncomfortable, and hopefully bringing in the value of what disability inclusion brings to the workforce, not just from first and foremost from a human experience, but also what's the value in organizations from hiring and accessibility and innovation and all of these things that come along with us as a community,
Yeah.
and trying to just shift the lens. So yeah, I do a lot of that, and then I've got the podcast and just trying to expand my platform as much as I can to.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, I think you and I are very similar in the way we educate. I have moved a lot more into social media, and you do a lot more of the in-person side, but we have very much the same message in that we are trying to educate everyone, non-disabled, disabled, whatever, about disability. And like I say all the time, right? Disability is inevitable. Everybody's going to wind up disabled at some point in their life, whether it's an accident, whether it's old age, whether it's illness, whatever it is. Like, you are going to be disabled. And a lot of people are terrified of that.
Yeah.
And so I think the way we combat the fear and remove the fear component is by educating. Because once you're educated about something, you're a lot less scared of it, right? And so I think that's what we're seeing a lot in the world and in our country right now is a lot of people are very scared of things.
Yeah.
And when they're scared of things, then they're it really just comes down to not being educated about them. So,
And I also think that, like, taking that one step further is
yeah.
that fear component. Once you do have some sense of new knowledge and education, and maybe even, I mean, for me, I can really just speak to myself, a little bit of pushing through that fear myself and trying something that either society's told me that I can't do, or that I'm worried that my disability might be limiting, or whatever. I'm pushing through those things. When you get to the other side of it, for me, and I'm assuming it's for you too, it is very like self-empowering to go, yeah, so I did that. What's next?
Yeah.
And like for me, that's been a huge motivator for me, not only in my own personal life, but to share that on stage, that we all have something that we're like immensely afraid of, like so afraid we would
Yes.
never. And disabled people are oftentimes forced to go through that path whether we want to or not. And what I have learned from that is there's like literally magic on the others. Like, my life has been waiting for me to push through that a little bit, you know. And giving that message, I think, is really powerful too for people who have a lot of hidden things that they're afraid to explore in their own path, or within their communities. So
100%.
I love sharing that too
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. I think that, education we've found is the way to combat ableism and the way to combat, I mean, not completely, right? Ableism is such a broad term. There are so many forms of ableism, but I found that usually once people are educated about it, it just opens their eyes. Like, I talk to my friends who are not disabled or whatever, and actually I was just talking to my personal trainer who's also my neighbor and my friend, and yeah, she does everything. She's also going to come on the podcast,
I love it.
but I'm her first disabled client that she's ever had. And so she was saying that through my videos and watching my videos and also just talking to me and adapting workouts, to fit me and my body, and having conversations with me, she's starting to recognize ableism out in public now, and things that she's never even thought about, where she's like, oh, how would Cassie do that? Oh, she can't get in that building. Oh, what about, that sign that says no service dogs allowed, those kinds of things. And so it's so interesting once people are educated, the stories that I'm hearing. Like, I get comments all the time of people being like, oh my gosh, I thought of you today when I saw a car parked in a disabled spot that didn't have a placard. And I'm like, right? And I love that I'm that little voice in the back of people's minds. Even if they watch one video of mine or hear you speak at some event, we forever stick with those people, right? We are forever continuing that message, even if we are not talking to them directly, or even if they are not directly in our presence. They are just receiving that and then taking that out into the world and maybe into their workplace or into their family or whatever, and advocating for disabled people there. Like, it's wild to think about how much of a reach education has just with our stories, just with our advocacy,
I love that. And like, what an honor for us to be able to
Right.
plant those seeds a little bit. And you just reminded me, like, I was recently went to a concert with one of my very best friends. And even the closest people in my life they're doing the same thing that you're saying. They're recognizing like injustices or things that we shouldn't be putting up with.
Right.
And there are still things, and I admit it, that I go, "It's all right, I got it," and I
I
just
do
because
that all the time.
sometimes I don't wanna deal with it,
I don't want confrontation. I'm just gonna deal with it.
100%, and we were at a concert, went into the bathroom, there was this big long line, and she goes, "No, no, 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 this isn't to brand," like, straight to the the
This
disabled
isn't to
stall, like,
brand.
"Yeah, this is not to brand, we are no, no, no," and so I love that you brought that up because I don't think I've acknowledged it like clearly and out loud, but there is so much of that going on. So it's like a sprinkling of
Hmm.
education that is, like our allies spreading the word
Yeah,
out into their universe, which is pretty amazing.
it's
So I guess it's working.
incredible. I was just on a live stream with somebody who wanted to join, and they were from France. And they
Oh,
were talking about how much they have learned from my videos. All what is that? Across the world? Like, what? They're talking about how much they've learned from my videos and how they're trying to advocate in their personal life for people with disabilities because just based on my videos
oh my
and
God.
being like, oh, that thing in my neighborhood isn't accessible. Oh, my walking route every day isn't accessible. Oh, that building that I go into every week, the coffee shop or the gym or whatever, that has a step up. Like, what would disabled people, what would somebody in a chair do, And it's wild to think that, like, we have that much reach. And I do agree with you. Like, what an honor. How did we get to this spot where we are, like, influencing people all over the world? And that's what I want to get into next. You
Yeah.
have been on some journeys these last few weeks.
I
I
have been on.
have been following them. You've been all over the world. You're finally at home. We just talked about this before we started rolling, but you're finally at home. But tell us, where have you been these last 2 weeks?
So we went on a trip to Paris for the Paralympic Games.
You know,
Yeah.
casual.
And I used to work for the Paralympics, so I've been to the Torino Winter Games. I went to the Vancouver, Canada Winter Games as well when I was kind of working on for the Paralympics and doing other projects. But now that my husband and I are all in full time, 100% disabled owned business, which has been amazing. We travel all over to these engagements and like we're just on an adventure, honestly. It's been really awesome. He's a wheelchair user as well. And so he said in February when the Paralympics started advertising, can we go? Like, I haven't been. He was on the US tennis team back when he was,
What?
yeah. So he never made it to the Paralympics, but got very close. And so
Mm.
I was like, yeah, let's go. Let's turn it into a work trip. We'll do some, accessibility, social media, and we'll just enjoy. And my
Mhm.
gosh, did we have, it was a trip of a lifetime. Like, number one, the Paralympics slash Olympics being in Paris, just the like,
The atmosphere? Yeah.
yes, like Paris all around, and then
Yeah.
the Olympics marketing all, it was just cool
Uh,
in itself. But it was so interesting being in a different country and how received we are as disabled,
mm.
legitimate athletes, like going for, the crowds were full.
Wow.
The engagement was incredible. It was up like roaring, like crowds, just
Wow.
totally engaged, cheering. We met a one of the archery gold medalists just randomly on the street. We stopped and talked to him, and kids would walk by, and he'd be like, "Let me show you a surprise," and he'd pull out his gold medal, and they looked at this amazing disabled athlete who just won gold like he was the biggest star in the entire world. And it was just really, really cool to see how different cultures are receiving us.
Mm.
And it felt more there. It felt more, I don't know, it felt a little bit more accepted, or
Mm.
like regular channels, like basic TV had
Yeah.
interviews all day, all night. And it was just, it was from a representation standpoint, that piece was really fascinating because I think we're still struggling pretty hard right now with, you know, like mainstreaming these
Yeah.
types of events.
Well,
Like
and
how
just seeing disabled people as actual athletes, I think is a
as
problem.
real like athletes. Yes.
Hmm.
So that part was really interesting, and it was just cool. Like, it wasn't easy. Like, there's a lot of inaccessibility there, a
Sure,
lot.
it's Paris.
But I also find that when I'm in other parts of the world, general society is sometimes more willing to like jump. They see us more, I think,
Oh, interesting. I
because
wonder why.
I don't know. It's how I was when I lived in Belgium too. Like, so many random strangers would just, right, wrong, or indifferent, they would pop me up on a train without. I'm like, whoa, 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 but
Don't touch me.
yeah, they would help me before I would even sometimes recognize that I really needed it. So I think around the world, I think disability
Interesting.
is seen a little bit more.
Hmm.
I don't
I wonder
know.
why it's not here. That's really interesting because I have only been out of the country once. I went to London. Um and that was I got my chair 2 weeks before, like my very first chair 2 weeks
Wow.
before my trip to London. Of course the airline like scratched it all up. My mom was so upset. I was like 13 and we didn't know that that's a common thing that airlines do. Of course now I do, but I was not a disability activist at 13.
Mhm.
And I didn't really have any, like a whole lot of disabled people in my life. So I didn't know that that's a thing. And so when we got to London and we saw that my chair was like, the frame was scratched and whatever, my mom was so upset. She was like, oh my gosh, how did they do that? And it's a very common story that we hear now, but the accessibility, that's one thing that we recognize too, and it really opened my eyes to being a new chair user, because forever I either walked or I used a like scooter, like a motorized scooter everywhere. And of course, I'm not going to take my scooter to London when I just got this brand new chair that was paid for by insurance. So we took my chair, and it really opened my eyes to like a whole new accessibility issue for me and like other people. And I think even at the young age of 13, I was like, wow, like this is difficult. Cobblestones everywhere,
Oh,
steps into places everywhere. And I'm incredibly fortunate that if we face those things even today, I can get up out of my chair and like we can carry my chair over whatever. And then I can just get back in it because I am an ambulatory chair user. But it opened my eyes at that point to like, what if I wasn't able to do that? What if I wasn't able to do that? And then also just how inaccessible the world is. Like, we took the tube and it was impossible to find like accessible tube entrances. How am I supposed to get out? Like, I'm in there, I'm underground. How am I supposed to get out of the tube? There's 3 flights of stairs or 3 flights of stairs. There's
yeah.
there's like 4 accessible entrances no matter where you go. So yeah, I think, but the perception of disability, I think what you just touched on is so interesting because we faced that too in London. People were just so willing to help my poor single mom with 2 kids, carry my chair up the stairs and help with whatever and give us directions. And people were just so kind. And I don't face that a lot here in the States.
I often wonder if it's because that, obviously ADA offers us a lot of benefits. There's a lot of things that need to still
Oh, yeah, the
be,
ADA is the bare minimum.
but I'm wondering if it like gives us here a free pass to just go, oh, they're fine. Like, there's accessibility.
Mm,
I don't know. I don't know what it is, but there's definitely a difference. I noticed it when I lived in Belgium for sure, and I noticed it again when I was in Paris. So, I mean, the cobblestones are a real thing. My husband Marty, he dumped out a couple times. Like, I made it the whole trip without dumping out. It
no.
usually happened to me too, but there's also still like on the flip side of that, there's also lack of knowledge, a real need for education. Like, I remember one
100%.
time when I was in Belgium, we went to the coast and there was no accessible, I could not find an accessible bathroom to save my one kidney. I could not find an accessible bathroom. And
Oh,
I finally find this restaurant. It has a disabled sticker, an emblem, the wheelchair on the window. I'm like, I have to buy it.
Yes.
So I go and I'm like, can I buy a soda? Like, I really need to use the restroom. They go, oh, no, no, no. We don't have accessible restrooms or downstairs. That means you can enter the building.
What?
So I
I
don't
would have
know.
just been like, fine, I'm getting out of my chair, and then just like scooted down the stairs to get to the bed. Oh,
This is
that.
why the
Uh,
world needs
uh,
us. This is why the world needs us, honestly.
this is why the world needs us. Okay, so after you went to Paris, you walked in New York Fashion Week.
I did.
Yeah, we didn't even
You
talk
need to
about
do
that.
that next year. You need to do that next.
I applied and they said no.
Oh, really?
Yes, they literally responded and they were like, "Thanks, but no thanks."
Oh,
And I was
shoot.
like, "Okay." So
Try
I'll
again
apply
next year.
next year. Yeah, I'll apply next year.
I'll put in a good word for you.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, last year I saw this event and I was like, ooh, I want to do that just to do it. You know, like I
Yes.
want to go down New York Fashion right
Yeah.
during New York Fashion Week. And so I started to make friends with the organization. I'm all about relationship building. Like any
Yeah,
company,
so am I.
like things don't happen for me overnight. Like I'm building relationships and
I'm gonna be besties with those people by the end of tomorrow.
100%. So, I built a relationship with the organization called Runway of Dreams, and in tandem, I also started to work with Target on one of their adaptive lines, and I do some consulting with my business too on accessibility features,
Mm,
depending on like what the company is. And so they hired me to do some consulting on what I wore. And so I think that things just kind of fell into place.
yeah,
The jacket is being released for fall this year, and so I got to roll down the runway in a product that I like got to have some consulting on, and
that is amazing.
it was really amazing. It was super fun, and I don't know what was more fun, like going down the runway, wearing the jacket, or just like doing hair and makeup and just being in the back. There were so many cool people like you. Like there's a lot of
Yeah,
influencer people and disabled people you see all over social media. So it was just kind of like a cool meeting of the minds and
yeah.
like networking opportunity.
Yes, that is absolutely my favorite part of any event ever. Is
Yeah.
literally just networking. I
Yeah.
love networking. When I did my runway show last year, I was the same way. I was like, I don't know what was more fun. Like walking the runway and like I did two different outfits, which was fun.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I wore I walked for Airy, and then I
Ooh.
walked for Not Your Inspiration, which was pretty cool.
Ooh.
Their brand, like their first line ever.
Ooh.
So it was really really cool. I worked with Levant Consulting,
Oh, I love
and
her.
yes, me too. Andrea is one of my favorites. Um, and then yeah, so it was an incredible show, but I was best friends with everybody
I
by the
love
end of the day. Like we had just met that day. We spent, 12, 14 hours together, something like that. You're there for a long time.
it. Yeah.
A long time. People think that you just show up for hair and makeup and then walk and then you're done. No. You were there from like 7:30 to like 9:30 p.m. Like you were there for a long time. And like I met so many friends that day, and it was so cool to get to meet girls my age, other
Yeah.
disabled people. They had both disabled people and non-disabled people walking
I
the runway,
love that.
so that was really really cool. So I got to make a lot of friends, and I just love networking. And that's how you and I met too.
I
Like
know.
we just, I think you introduced a little girl to me.
Yeah.
And at the Rolettes experience. And the Rolettes experience was a whole nother thing. I loved networking. I was
Mhm.
best friends with everybody at the end of
You
that
were working the
weekend.
room.
I was like,
Yeah.
hey, what's your name? So, no, I love meeting people. And again, I think that's the pathway to educating everybody. So, just by
And it's
having
so
conversations with people.
yeah, and it's so cool to just be in a room for me that I feel like I can disappear in, you know? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not sticking out of the crowd.
Yeah. Nobody's
And
looking at you. You're
yeah,
just.
just like
There.
blend into the crowd,
Yes.
bye. And I used to love that as a kid going to camp. And so when I
Me
get those
too.
moments now, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
I disappear again. And I enjoy that.
Yeah. So
It's
do I.
so random, I guess. Maybe it's not random because you do the same thing. I think we all feel that way, probably.
Yeah.
You know,
I have this weird thing where I love to blend into the crowd, but then when it's my time to shine, it's my time to shine.
Same.
You know, like yes, don't look at me, but also when I want you to look at me, I'm gonna get on that stage. So,
Totally. I think
like,
that's why you and I are very similar. Like, I think that's why we
yes,
get along. So I'm like, we're constantly like, oh yeah, no, that's me. Oh yeah, we're doing the same work. Da, da, da. And same.
yeah,
I love a stage myself. So
yes, I know.
I
Both
think
of us,
that's because like we're shorter statue. I'm going to
right?
speak for you and you let me know.
No,
But
yeah.
I love getting on a high stage, having a loud mic and just
Mm,
feeling tall and,
yes,
like big, like
yes.
spread out. So I think that's probably what it is for me. I don't know if that's what it makes you feel
No,
like.
that yeah, 100%. And then I'm like, hey, I'm like, look at me. Look at me, I'm over here. But then I go through moments where I'm like, actually, don't look at me. Don't look at me. I don't want you to look at me. Thank you.
Uh,
But when I'm on stage, I'm like, no, look at me.
yeah.
I put in a lot of work for this today, so you can look at me. That's also why I started social media because
Uh,
I was like, the stage is not enough. I mean, so I love getting the comments where people are like, "You're just doing this for attention." I'm like, yeah, and what
and
about it?
so
They're like, you're using your disability for money, and I'm like, yeah, it's taken a lot of
do
money from
people tell
me.
you that?
Yes, I get
Oh,
people telling me all the time that I'm either using my disability for money or I'm faking my disability altogether. I'm not actually disabled. I'm just faking it for attention. I love when people tell me that I'm using my disability for money because I am, but it's because it's taken like millions of dollars from me. So I feel like the least it can do is like give me money, like make me money, you know?
and like I do think that there's a thing that like our disabilities are always to be placed in this charity model. Why
Yeah,
is it not
no,
okay to leverage every single layer of who we are as a human
exactly.
to reach our dreams? Like, why is
100%.
that something that is frowned upon? I don't
Mm,
understand it. And as like a disabled entrepreneur, like businesswoman, like I feel like it's time for disability to not only be in a charity model, but to be in a for profit, like our value.
yeah,
We're full of value. Why? So those statements are ableism, in my opinion.
I agree. I think
But
they're microaggressions.
they are microaggressions.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, I get them all the time. I use them
Wow.
for fun now. I don't know if you've seen my most recent posts that I've been posting, but I've been reacting to ableist comments, and it's my favorite thing to do. Um, my boyfriend finds really ableist comments and then says them to me, and then I have to rate them. Um,
You are so funny. I love you.
and then I rate them as I'm like crocheting to like wind down at night. I'm like crocheting. Last night I was crocheting a pumpkin hat for my cat,
Ouch.
and he was like, one of my favorites from last night's video was he said, "Just walk it off," and I was like, I think walking is part of the problem. Actually, I think
Oh,
it's gonna make it worse.
oh
Um,
my God.
Yeah, but they're really ableist, and I just think they're really funny. So that's what I've been using people's ableist comments for. I want to be
I'll
mindful of
just
time.
wait, no, but I just want to tell you too,
No, go
like
ahead.
I think that this is one of the things that is so palatable about you
Thank you.
is that you're so authentic and you allow us to laugh, and
Yeah.
enjoy. And I think that that is missed a lot in this like
Mm.
industry. We're also like, and I'm including myself in this, like I know I need to be more fun sometimes like you. And
Oh, don't think I'm like this all the time.
no, I
No,
know
no,
you're
no.
not, but you're very inviting. And the humor that is tied into the struggle sometimes is I it's inviting, like it
No.
is. I don't know, you have a great aura about you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you
Thank
really do.
you. And I think education is important, but I also think humor is important.
Yeah.
Because one way to like break down barriers is by making people laugh.
Yeah.
So people have been commenting on that series recently and being like, "Oh my gosh, do people actually say things like this?" And I'm like, "Yes." Like, "Can I pray for you?" And
Yeah.
things like that. People are like, "Do people actually do that?" And they're realizing, because they're laughing at it, they laugh at it because it's funny. That's why I posted it. But then they take a second to reflect and they're like, "Wait a second."
It's
Whoa.
like some of it is like you either laugh or cry, like,
Yeah.
is this stuff actually real?
Yeah,
Then you're like,
exactly. And so I
"God."
think it's really interesting that people are like taking a second afterwards to reflect and being like, "Whoa, like, wow, this is the kind of ableist society we live in." Because it's true.
Yeah,
Like, those are all things that have been said to either me or other disabled people
all of
in
us.
my comment section, in our real lives, whatever. And I'm just using them to not only educate about why those are horrible things to say to any human being, but
Yeah,
also laugh about it. Because the one way to get through to people is by laughter. And
yeah,
not laughing at people, but just laughing at the absurdity
yeah,
of like, what even is that question, you know and that's why I love humor, is because I don't love making fun of people. I will never do that.
yeah,
But using humor as a tool to help educate, I think, is something that I'm trying to be really smart about. And using humor in my stand up, and using humor just in general to help people understand like what it is that we go through every day. And then I want them to go home from my stand up or stop watching my videos or whatever, go on with their days and be like, "Oh, wait a second."
yeah.
Like, oh. And like take a second to reflect, because it is something we go through every day, you know?
My dad, when I was really young, he would tell me, and I say this a lot when I speak, but you just reminded me of it, so I'm going to say it again, is he would tell me a lot, like, "Alycia, this path is going to be really tough. Like, this is not going to be easy. It's going to be hard. Um, you need to do the best that you can with what you have.
Yeah.
And when you feel like it, try to smile, because a smile is going to allow other people in, to try to educate, understand, like, and be a part of an,
Mm,
a proactive part, a helpful part
mm,
of advancing this rather than not.
yeah.
So, and that's what you're saying
Yeah.
is like, let's try to,
Let's try to laugh about it some more. Like,
yeah,
not everything has to be so serious all the time, you know?
I like it. I'm into it.
Like, yes, disabilities are serious, but like, come on. Like, we're fine. Okay?
We are fine.
We're fine. It's not the absolute worst possible thing that, I mean, we're alive, aren't we? We're fine.
Yeah, and we're like, we are fine. Like, there's definitely stuff that needs to be better, obviously, that's
Sure.
why we do what we do, but, like, I also recognize the privilege that I have in the like, like,
Yeah.
I was in Paris and runway and, like, doing all these cool things, like, that is because I'm disabled, like, that
Yes.
I have an identical twin sister, able-bodied, she was not on the runway.
Me too. Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
have a twin sister? Did we talk about
No, sorry, I don't have a twin sister, but I have a
Oh,
sister.
oh my god.
She's my little sister, and she's completely able-bodied. And we were not treated any differently as children. um,
Yeah,
um,
same.
we could, I mean, like, I'm gonna have you on for another podcast, because we could literally talk about things for hours. After we got off your podcast, I wanted the public to know that like we had another like 20-minute phone call, like FaceTime session. We were on recording for like 45 minutes to an hour, and then Alycia just goes, "Do you want me to FaceTime you?"
We're like, "Can
And
I
we
just go over
FaceTimed
to
and we
slumber
talked
party?"
about drama for like 20 minutes. It was my favorite thing.
That was my that was my favorite thing too. I like that's slumber party stuff. Like we need like a
Yes.
full 24 hours.
Yeah, we do. We have a lot of stuff to talk about every time. So I'm obviously
Next
gonna
year
have you
I'm
on
going to
again.
go to Andrea's runway and you go. We'll meet there and then we'll do a thing.
Right. Yeah. Well, like, somewhat, you'll get a hotel room, I'll get a hotel room, something, and then we'll just have like a 4-hour podcast. That's actually kind of probably a bad idea, because then our significant others will be like, can we get
Whoa.
them out of that room, please? Like, they need to eat. They need to, come on, like, we're done. Okay, I want to be mindful of time because I know you have a meeting, but one more question.
Yes.
I have a younger audience. Mainly my demographic is 13 to 18-ish. Some of them are my age, like 18 to 23. But a lot of those are young disabled people. And I get so many comments every day, so many DMs every day asking me about confidence tips, asking me how to feel comfortable in their own bodies, asking me how I'm getting all these cool opportunities, how they can, strive in their field and strive to just be a confident, young, disabled person. And so I think, we are both so alike. We both do really cool things, and we both have made names for ourselves. And I think a lot of people will look at us and be like, wow, they're so confident. Like, I can't get to that point, So I was wondering if you have any advice for younger disabled people.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing to recognize is this is a lifelong adventure to
Mm,
self-confidence.
mm,
It does not come overnight. It does not come with the flip of a switch. I
right.
wish it did. And being young and disabled, like, is hard. Like, it just is. You're dealing with a lot of things on top of your disability.
Yeah.
The pressures of school, adolescence, all of it. And the one thing that I can tell them, or the bit of advice that I could give, is what you feel in your heart. I always felt in my heart that what I'm doing today is what I should be doing.
Mm,
I didn't start until I was in my 40s.
right.
So I'm a lot older than your audience. But if I would have been a little bit brave, and I would have started to push through the fear and follow what I really felt like was meant for me in this life, it was literally waiting for me. And the more I leaned into my disability and owned it as a part of my identity, not something that I was trying to hide or mask or any of that,
Mm,
the more power I found in my own self as a disabled, with a capital D, woman, girl, whatever age you're at.
yeah.
And I think that that's really important. And it starts, honestly, it had to start with me. It had to start with me owning it
Right.
and recognizing it and lifting it up and acknowledging it as one of the, not the only, but one of the most powerful pieces of my identity.
Mm,
But it's a
that's so
process.
powerful.
It's a process.
Yeah, that's incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
Well, Alycia, thank you for joining.
Thank you for
Um,
being my friend.
oh my gosh, thank you for being my friend. I love you.
I love you too so much.
Where can people find you?
You can go to my website, alyciaanderson.com. That's Alycia, Anderson with an O. Definitely check out my podcast, Pushing Forward with Alycia, and listen to Cassidy's episode to get more of this. And my Instagram and social media is Alycia Speaking.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And all of those will be linked below. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Please make sure to like, subscribe, comment, give me a 5-star rating depending on where you're watching or listening from. Please make sure to go follow Alycia on all of her platforms to see all of the amazing work she's doing. Make sure to follow me on all my platforms because I do post on Instagram and Facebook Reels and YouTube Shorts and TikTok every single day. I have a vlog that comes out on YouTube every Wednesday and a podcast episode that comes out every Sunday. So thank you so much for watching and listening, and I love you so much, and I will see you next time. Bye.